It's so fantastic that she's second, but it's also so devastating that she's not first. It's one of those things, isn't it, where you're so close and yet so far. And we've seen Sam here before, ranked amongst the world's best. In 2021, she finished third. In 2022, she finished third again. This time around, she's finished second. We really can't discredit the person that finished first, who was one of the Spanish team members who won the World Cup here in Australia back in August. And speaking about Aitana Bonmati, she's also wasn't just the best player at the FIFA World Cup, but she plays in Barcelona, and a number of the Barcelona players were inside the top 10 for the Ballon d'Or. And it's real credit to her being in two very good teams, the Champions League team, the World Cup team, taking top spot. You'd have to think, though, that Sam Kerr, edging closer and closer each year, next year has to be hers, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We're all looking out for that. But how hard will it be for others to catch up and outperform the Spanish players in coming seasons?
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult because they are an incredible team. And if you look at the winner of the men's Ballon d'Or, of course, Lionel Messi, an 8-time winner. He was also captain of the Argentina team that won the men's World Cup in December. So it shows you that, you know, that they don't just play in great club teams, they play in fantastic national teams. They are at the top at every level of the game. So for Sam to be there, given that Australia is not one of the top 3 or 5 teams in the world in football, just shows the calibre of player she is and the mark that she makes when she's playing for Chelsea and, of course, when she's captaining the Australian team.
It really is incredible. Meanwhile, unfortunately, Spain's win in the Women's World Cup was overshadowed by that unwanted kiss on player Jenni Hermoso by Spanish football president Luis Rubiales. Now, he has this week been banned from all football-related activities for 3 years. Do you think FIFA's actions go far enough to address the concerns of the women's team?
Well, Rubiales himself said it's gone too far. He says it's disproportionate and that he is going to continue to fight until he's exhausted every level of justice. So it's interesting when you look at how far FIFA has come, the World Game has come. There was even debate around the kiss, exactly, you know, how distracting was it for the team? How unwanted was it from Jenni Hermoso? And in the weeks that unfolded afterwards, and of course it's turned into months now, the dilemma just kept growing. And, you know, calls were being made on either side. They really argued the point. But for FIFA to actually come down and hand out a 3-year ban for that sort of behaviour really sets a precedent. And it's one that I think a lot of people didn't think they would go that far. So we're yet to see if Rubiales does in fact appeal, but he was found to be in breach of Article 13. There's about 5 or 6 different things that you can fall foul of there, basically bringing the game and FIFA into disrepute and for behaving in a way that is unwanted or unsavoury.
Now, Tracy, let's turn our attention to the Olympic qualifiers at home. That's why Sam Kerr wasn't able to be in Europe to accept her latest award. But the Matildas have their final match against Chinese Taipei in Perth tomorrow. What can we expect?
I think we can expect that the Matildas should be able to do it comfortably on something, unless something completely out of the blue jumps into the arena. But a number of the players have already headed home, as was already organised beforehand. We've got different players, different teams going to playoffs in the US. We've also seen Courtney Vine with a hamstring strain. She's returned back to Sydney FC so she can have treatment on that. But the team, what is left of the team, still just so solid. Tony Gustafsson has said he can start any number of players. Chinese Taipei is not expected to be a tough encounter for the Matildas, and the Matildas already finishing on top of that group. They move into the next level for Olympic qualifying, and all they need to do is get through the top 2 in that next round to make Paris 2024.
OK, well, we look forward to watching the match in any case. Just quickly before we move on to cricket, we've just heard that Australia will not bid for the 2034 Men's World Cup.
That's right. And so that is probably not a surprise because in the running, it was Saudi Arabia who had already declared its hand that it was going to put everything into a bid for 2034. We knew that Australia had also expressed some desire to do so. But at the AFC, the Asian Football Confederation meeting about several weeks ago, the AFC wholeheartedly endorsed the bid from Saudi Arabia. So I think Australia's read the writing on the wall. We are a member of the AFC, and given that the entire AFC said they were backing Saudi Arabia, it's a wise decision for Football Australia to withdraw its bid, but they'll focus on other things. They'll focus on the Club World Cup, which will be held before then, and also hopefully hosting the AFC Women's Championship as well.
And finally, to cricket, Afghanistan's men's team continues to impress. They're well supported by the International Cricket Council. Can the same be said of the Afghanistan women's team living in exile in Australia?
Well, absolutely not. And I think this is some of the pressure that is still being applied to the ICC, the International Cricket Council that runs the World Game. They've actually just been readmitted into the Olympic Games. So cricket will be an Olympic sport in LA 2028. We know that the IOC is adamant with all Olympic Games that any team that qualifies must be able to present men and women. Now, I'm not saying that Afghanistan cricket team is going to qualify immediately, but they're in a situation where Afghanistan could get into the semi-finals of the ICC World Cup. What happens if they do qualify for the Olympic Games? And the Olympic movement would be embarrassed because they've got a sport here that instead of giving them money as they are supposed to develop the men's and women's games, all of that development money for Afghanistan is going simply to the men. We're seeing the results in the men's team, which is fantastic, but there is a call for the women who are here in Australia to be supported with the money that they should be receiving from the ICC.
OK, we'll be watching closely. Tracy Holmes, thank you so much for all those sporting updates.
Thanks, Yvonne.